Do a quick review of what we talked about yesterday. So the first thing we talked about yesterday was a point. Okay, thank you. We say that we show a point by putting a dot, right? The dot represents a point. And if we were going to label a point, how do we label a point? Use a what? Capital letter, okay? We used A yesterday, I think. Z. All right, I always put that little thing in there. All right, so because sometimes they look like twos, so I put that little thing. All right, so this is there's a point. We make a dot. It's a point, and we always label it with a capital letter. All right, so every time you see just a single dot with a capital letter, that means it's a point. Now, if you had a whole bunch of these points all lined up, you would have this. It doesn't have to be horizontal, so I'm going to purposely put it a little diagonal there. You put arrows on the end of these. What is this thing?
A line.
This is a line. Good. What do the arrows represent on a line? They do what?
Keep going.
Keeps on going, right. Just keeps on going in both directions. Now, a line is made up of a whole bunch of points. In fact, so many points that you can't even count them all, right? So what word do we give for that if it keeps on going and never stops?
Infinity.
Right, infinity. Good. And so that means there's an infinite number of points on this line. But, well, it is a number, but it's a weird number that doesn't stop. It just keeps on going. So it's kind of hard for us to understand, in our minds, because our minds are pretty much finite, right? It stops. Usually things have a beginning, things have an end. But if we expand our minds a little bit, and it kind of is a spiritual thing too, right? God's mind is infinite. God's mind, there was never a point where God never existed. It's impossible for us to really comprehend that and understand that because our mind doesn't work that way. But God there was never a point when God never existed. God always was, and He always will be. So there will never be a time where we say, all right, that's it, let's shut it all down, it's all done, right? There's never a point. So God keeps on going forever and ever and ever, and He was forever to the left, right, negative, and He's forever what? To the right, positive. You follow me? All right, so that you can kind of think of a number line that way. And again, we can't fathom that. I mean, we can kind of pretend to understand it, but really we can't. There's just no way we can understand it. I mean, just think. There's always another day. There's always another day. For you guys, you may think, especially as teenagers, and you think that there's always another day, but for all of us, no matter who we are, there will come a day where it'll stop and it'll end. But with God, that'll never ever happen. When I say it'll never end, we're talking here on earth, right? All right, but you got to look beyond. Okay, if we're saved and if we're Christians, we go to heaven, then we'll live forever and ever and ever, and then we will have a complete understanding. So you'll think back, oh yeah, Mr. Hammer told us about infinity. Now I know what it's like. Okay, maybe you won't think that, but that's how I feel. So maybe that'll happen. But on the flip side, though, if you don't accept Christ, there's still infinity, no matter what. If you accept Christ or if you don't accept Christ, there will always be an infinite. You will go on infinitely, all right? And hopefully you do make that decision to accept Christ because you will spend infinity or eternity, as we say, in heaven. All right, so you want to keep that in mind because it's a lot more important than our just few years here on this earth. Okay, all right. Anyway, so there's a little spiritual application for today. All right, let's put a couple points on there. Let's call this A and B.
Ooh, you gotta put A and B in parentheses. Put the line.
No, you don't have to put you don't have to put parentheses.
No, I'm talking about when you actually do the line, don't you?
Like no,
A,
no parentheses. No. That's ordered pair stuff. That's a little different.
I don't mean to say that. I meant to say like the line over it with the.
Yeah, the line over it. Yeah, we will in a second. I'm going to show you that. Or we used A and B right now. We might use something else later. Okay, let's pay attention. Let's think about this. Let's not worry about what letters we use. Okay. So this is a line. I've got point A and point B. Does that mean they're the only 2 points on this line?
No.
No. How many points are on this line?
Infinite.
I just decided to take this point and label it and call it A, and take this point, label it, and call it B. All right, that's all there was. So I can name this line then. Okay, remember we learned how to name a point with a capital letter, just one single capital letter, but we name a line with 2 capital letters. They have to be 2 points that are on that line. Now look, what if C was up here? Could I call this line right here? Could I call it AC? No, because C doesn't lie on this line, does it? All right? If I take 2 points that lie on the line, then I can call it by that name. So I call it line AB. But what's my little symbol? It's a little line symbol over top of it. So it's a line with 2 arrows on the end. Everybody understand that? So that's how we label this line. Is that the only way I could label this line? No, I could label it how else?
A-B-A.
I could call it B-A. It doesn't matter what order you put it in. There is no, remember, there is no beginning. Listen to me. Remember, there is no beginning, there is no end, so it doesn't matter which one goes first. It doesn't make any difference at all. All right? What's that? Okay. Watch this. I'm going to put I could put another point on there. So let's call it D. We already used Z. All right, now watch. Shh. Let's not worry about this. So I still could call it AB. If I put another point on here, I mean, I could have a dozen points on there. I could have like 26 different points, right? Each from A all the way to Z if I wanted to. But I can still, listen, I can still name this by just using how many points? 2. Even if there's 3 points that are labeled on the line, I don't use all 3. In fact, listen to this. In my honors geometry class, we just took a quiz over like the first 4 sections of this chapter 1. And I got like 3 or 4 people that when I said name this line, they went like ADB. Is that how you name a line with 3 points? No. How do we name a line? With what? With 2 points. Okay, we only use 2 points, not 3. Is that understood? So if I ask you to name a line, we name it with how many? 2 points and not 3. So even though there's 3 points here, we don't use all 3. Now, it doesn't matter what combination of 2 points that we use. We can use any combination of 2 points. You could have gone AB or BA. Now that we threw a D in there, you could also call it what? Let's start with A. You could call it AD, put a line over top of it, or you could always reverse it too, couldn't you? You could call it DA. Is there any other thing that we could call this line? Yeah, you could go DB, couldn't you? All right, so we could go DB, or you could call it what? BD, all right? Look, there's 6 different ways. If I have 3 points on this line, there's 6 different ways that I could name that line, all right? How would I normally do it? If it was me, and I saw this right here, and I saw the 3 points, if I was to name this, it doesn't mean it's the best way, all right? It doesn't mean it's the only way. There's 6 different ways to do this. But if it was me, I'd probably do the one on the left and the one on the right, okay? I would probably label it that. Does that mean it's the very best way to do it? No, it's not. It's just maybe so that we can stay a little consistent, right? And that we kind of do it the same. But I would accept any of these 6 right here, all right? But if it was me, I'd probably call it line AB, all right? It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's the first one, it's the last one. All right, there we go. Let me show you another thing I didn't say yesterday. Listen to this. Let's scooch this up here. And let's go back to white on this for my line. Everybody watching? Let's just go in another direction. Because, the lines don't have to go left and right. Guys, let's listen now. They don't have to go left and right. Here's another way that I could name this line. What if I didn't label any points on this line at all? I really wouldn't be, I wouldn't be able to call it anything because, well, a line's kind of a shape, I guess. You could consider that. But watch what I can do. Here's another way that some people label a line. Everybody watching? Paying attention? They could put a lowercase letter just kind of next to it. It's not a point on the line, right? Because a point's always an uppercase, isn't it? It's always the uppercase letter. But I could name this. A lot of times they use an L. And sometimes they kind of make it cursive looking in the book, right? Or italicized. That's an L. That's my little cursive L. So I could call this line L. Or if I wanted to, I could call it line whatever. Yeah, this would be my Z. That's a lowercase z for me, all right? It's a kind of a cursive looking Z. So I could call it line Z, okay? Or I could call it line what? A. Or I could call it whatever, P. Or I could call it T, lowercase, okay? A, what's that mean?
T on the line. The T lurking.
What's that mean? Is that a song or something?
The T be lurking.
All right, we'll take that off of there. I didn't realize it would cause that much commotion with the letter T. So what is that? Is anybody going to explain that to me? What's that?
The T be lurking.
That's a song. Okay, yeah. That's all I need.
T be lurking.
T be lurking. All right, I got a new one now.
No, that's not the name of the song.
Oh, it's not? It's just what they say in the song?
T be lurking.
All right, enough of that. So I could use I could use letters, but they'd be lowercase letters, and they're just off to the side right here, all right? You may see that somewhere. Now remember, those letters are not points on the line. You understand me? So for instance, I'll even tell you right now, The question on the quiz that I gave you. It's something like this. Let's go M. That's a lowercase m. One of the questions. Listen to me. I don't know. Let's just do this. Q. Let's put a R. Let's put an S. All right. So those are all capitals. So those are all points on the line right there. One of the questions on the quiz that you're going to take, right, is going to say something like this. They're different letters and stuff, but it's basically this. It's going to say name what's another name? What is another name for line M? All right. So what is another name for line M? What would you say?
With the line of the infinite
QS.
line
All right. QS with a line symbol with arrows on the end of it.
QR.
Yeah. So that's one possible answer, isn't it? All right. You wouldn't say QRS, would you? Why would that be wrong?
Because it's 3.
Because there's 3. We don't label a line with 3. We label a line with what? 2. Okay, so hopefully on that problem, when it comes time to take that quiz, you guys will all get that right. Okay? So the question was, name another, what's another name for line M? All right, I just wrote line M up there. What's another name for line M? Well, I could call it QS, or I could call it QR, or I could call it RS. Right? You got 6 different possibilities, and I would accept any of those 6. I would not accept line QRS. All right? And several people, I think maybe 3 or 4 people in that class, got that wrong because they put 3 points instead of 2. Everybody understand? So I'm giving you a little break. I'm telling you that that's going to be a question on one of our quizzes. So make sure you don't get that wrong. Okay, enough of lines. I think we've covered that enough. What was the third thing that we talked about? A plane. So let's draw a plane. What's this video? What's that? It'll be the last one on there. It just goes in order. The first one's always the earliest one, and then the last one on there is the last one that we did. And it's section 1-1. So there's quite a few on there. So what did I go to? Shear. Let's go like 30 degrees. Okay. All right, here we go. So in the book, planes kind of look like this. They kind of slant. They take a rectangle. Listen. They take a rectangle and they slant it. It's called a parallelogram. We'll have a whole chapter on parallelograms basically later on. Well, quadrilaterals. But for right now, this is basically a plane. Now, we have a way to label or to name the plane. Do you remember what that is? You go somewhere in one of the corners. What is it? Is it a lowercase? It's a capital, right? It's uppercase. It's capital letter. And in the book, they make it kind of look a little bit more fancy, all right? I'm not really sure. It's not necessarily cursive. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird. If you look at it, look on page 5. You have your book open? See page 5? They put a K down here. Now, I don't know how to make it really fancy, but it's a capital letter, and it just looks a little bit fancier, all right? I don't know, maybe they put little swirly things on here. I don't know. I can't make it fancy. All right, but that's kind of what it looks like if you look in the book, all right? It's kind of a fancier looking capital letter. So that's how they label the plane. Now, that does not mean that's a point, okay? When they put that capital letter here in the corner, it's not a point. It's just the name of the plane. So what we would do, we don't really have a symbol for plane, so we just write the word in front of it. It's kind of boring, but that's what they do. So they would say plane what? Plane K. And it's a capital letter, but it's kind of a crazy looking capital letter in the book. You can just write a regular old capital K. You don't have to make, or whatever. Right. When the line doesn't have any points labeled on it and they use just a little lowercase letter, that represents a line, yes. Okay? So that would be called plane K. Now here's other ways you can name this plane as well. If you knew 3 points actually on the plane itself, we'll call it X, Y, and Z. All right? So if you knew 3 points that lie on this plane, you could actually name this plane 2 different ways. Okay, you can name it plane K. That'd be all right. Be no problem with that. Or you could use the 3 points on that plane. So for instance, what if they didn't give you that fancy letter in one of the corners, and that's all they gave you, and they said, name this plane? Then you would call it, excuse me, plane, what? Yeah, X, Y, Z. And again, it doesn't matter what order the X, Y, and Z go in. It doesn't make any difference at all.
Put the Z first, though.
It doesn't matter. So plane X, Y, Z is what you would call this thing. Does that make sense? All right.
But can I go in any order, right?
Go in any order. Right. Doesn't matter what order.
You can test now.
You could just, now you can't call it plane Y because you don't call it just by 1 point on the plane. You could call it 3 points on the plane. excuse me, or remember, if they put that fancy crazy letter in the corner, like capital M, if they did this, what would you call this now? You could call it plain M, couldn't you?
Wait, so if all of that was on there,
If all this stuff was on here, you got two ways to name this.
oh, alright.
Okay, you got two ways. You could just say plain M. All right, if it's a big capital crazy looking letter in one of the corners, it doesn't have to be in the bottom corner. It could be in any of the corners. But if you can name it that, or if you have 3 points that are on that plane, you can name it that. Now watch. What if I stick another point in here? There's all kinds of different names. I could use any of these 3. Come on. I could use any of these 3 right here to name this plane. So I could call it XYW, I could call it YWZ, I could call it YZ whatever. Okay, you see, there's all kinds of different options where you could name this plane.
That's just a plane.
Wait a minute. Hey, I can't even hear her. Hush. I got one question right here. Go ahead.
So with a plane, you can have like 3 different letters, but different lines.
Yes, for a plane, you can have 3 different letters, yes. And you have to. You can't just call it plane XY. All right? You can't just use 2 to name a plane. You got to use either 3 or use that big capital letter in the corner. All right? So I could pick any combination of these 3, and that's what I could call that plane. Make sense? All right. Questions over here. Mike? That was it? Okay. All right, are we clear on that? On how to name a plane? It's kind of important because we're going to be doing it basically all year long. Every chapter is going to talk about lines, points, and most of the time, and a lot of times, plane. All right, so this is a foundational thing. You may not think it's all that important, that big of a deal, but you're going to be using this the rest of the year. So we've got to make sure that we're straight on this and how to label it and all that kind of thing. All right, make sense? All right, let's go back to some points again. What if I, let's draw a line like this, and I'm going to put 3 points on this line.
The H.
You want H?
and T.
I'm not using T anymore because everybody goes crazy with the T on the thing. So, I don't know. Give me some names.
HDZ.
We'll go HP for Harry Potter Trilogy. Oh, there's T. Oh, I better not put T. Oh, no, T. What is it? T what was it? How do you say that again?
The T was lurking.
The T was lurking? Is that what it is? Why do you say it like that? Did they say it
That's
weird
how they
like
say
that?
it. The
Oh,
T
okay.
was lurking. Put
Okay.
T up there.
Say, all right, I'll put T.
Say it like T. Say it like
I'm not going to say it like that. I can't say it like that. I'm not that cool.
The T was lurking.
All right, here we go. Ready? So these 3 points, they all lie on that line right there, don't they? Everybody see that? All 3 of those points lie on that line. We have a name for that. When we have 3 points that all lie on the same line, we have a name for that. We call them collinear points. Write it down. Write it down. Actually, 3 or more. Let's say 3 or more. Okay, collinear points. Yeah, I could have more points on here. I could put as many as I want. As long as they all lie on the same line, guess what? They are collinear. All right, co means with. You see the line in there, right? With the line. It means they lie on the line. So, and all these points, if I labeled them all, you know, Q and R, okay? All these points right there are called collinear points. What if I said, what if I put a point right here and called it point A? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are all 6 of these points collinear? No, not all 6 of them are, because I would have to include that too. That's not on the line, is it? So all 6 of those points, what I would say, they're not collinear. I would say that they are non-collinear. Oops, that's supposed to be a C.
Collinear is
Collinear.
5.
Well, no, collinear could be as many as you want, but what does collinear mean? They have to do what? They have to lie on the same line. Okay, they got to be on the same line to be collinear. So here's a question. What if I gave you this line and I say, name the points that are collinear? I'll tell you what, let's get rid of some of these. We don't need all these on here. I'll just get rid of this one and get rid of this one. Okay? So name the points that are collinear. What would you name? H, put a comma in between, P, and T. So those are your collinear points because they lie on the same line. Make sense? You wouldn't include A, would you?
If we had a triangle, and it was on a different line.
If you had a triangle,
I think you got one like.
I
on
do
the
have a
side.
triangle. Let me, yeah, I made it little so I could come up here. Let's get a triangle. Wait a minute. Let me do this. All the way down. All right, look. Oops. 1, Okay, watch this. If I put a point here, call it A, put one here B, and one C. Okay, is A, B, and C, are they collinear? Are A, B, and C collinear? No, they're not. They're not on the same line. But what about A and B? A and B are collinear. Give me some other collinear. A and C and B and C, right? But A, B, and C, they would be what? What's the word? Non-collinear. All right, so that's a good question. Does that make sense? Okay. I'll tell you what, I'm agree. I'll just keep that there. All right, let's go back to a plane again. I'll just redraw another one. And, whoops, what do I want to transform and shear?
45.
3 or more. Well, it could be 2 or more, actually, because, well, actually, no, that won't be a big problem. Any points that lie on the same line are collinear. If they don't lie on the same line, they're not collinear, okay? We'll put it that way. I think it's 3 or more. Let me see what the... No, it doesn't even say, it doesn't give you a number. It just says points that lie on the same line, okay? So just, it could be 2, all right? What about this? This is a what? Well, nah, yeah, but we haven't... I did say it was a parallelogram earlier, but as far as we're concerned within this lesson right now, it's a plane, isn't it? Okay? And let's call it plane...
Z.
Z. All right, we'll use Z. All right. So this is plane Z. I just stuck it in another corner just to show you that it doesn't have to be in one particular corner. Make sense? So what if I had a point here, we'll call it A, a point here, I'll call it B, and a point here, and I'll call it C. Everybody looking up here? Everybody head up, paying attention, and watching. You should be writing down, okay? You need to write. I don't know why I have to tell you that every day. I know, I wasn't talking to you. All right, so watch. Look at A, B, and C. Well, they're definitely not collinear, are they? All right, A and B, I guess you could draw a line between them and call them collinear, but the A and B lie on the same what?
Plane.
On the same plane. So as long as they're inside of this, it means they lie on the same plane. So what do you think we would call that? That points that lie on the same plane? Coplanar, okay? That was very close. This is how you spell it, all right? Coplanar. Co meaning what? What did I say co meaning? With, right, okay? Or in this case, it kind of means on, but co, I think, means with. Planar means plane, right? So on the same plane. So A and B are coplanar because they're in the same plane. Look at C, though. Where's C? It's floating out somewhere else, isn't it? Okay, it's not on the same plane. So A, B, and C would be what? No, A, B, and C. Non-coplanar, right. They would be non-coplanar. It is pretty easy. Okay, it's just vocab, isn't it? It's not really any math. It's just understanding what the words mean. But we got to start somewhere, right? We got to speak the same language, and that's what we're trying to teach in this first couple sections. So learn how to speak the language of geometry, all right? Because there's words in geometry that you probably never used before. All right. So A and B would be coplanar. A, B, and C would be non-coplanar. So what kind of question could they ask? They could say, name the coplanar points, and you would say what? A and B.
Z.
Name 2 non-coplanar points.
You can't because it's only C.
No. Name 2 non-coplanar points. You could say B and C, right? Or you could say,
A, C.
well, C and B is the same thing as B and C. Or you could say what?
Z, C.
A. No, Z's not a point. You can't say Z.
Oh.
What's another point? A and C, right. They're not in the same plane, are they? Let me show you what it means to be non-coplanar. Because, I mean, this is a flat surface that you're looking at up there. But this is what's going on. Here's your plane. So you got point A on this plane. You got point B on this plane. Where would point C be? Would it be like over here?
No, it'd be off.
No, it'd be off of the plane, wouldn't it? Okay? So like point C might be here. Everybody see that? So A and B are on the same flat surface. But C is way up here floating around, right? And it's not on the same flat surface. So it's not in the same plane. Remember, Z is not a point. Z is not a point. Z is what? It's just the name of the plane, okay? So this is called plane Z, but I got point A on it, I got point B on it, point C is out here floating out here, right? And it's not on the same plane. Does that make sense? Okay. Because sometimes we're talking about things in 3 dimensions, and we can only write on 2-dimensional, surfaces, so it makes it a little bit tough sometimes. All right, let's see what else we got right here. All right, let's do this. What if I have 2 lines, and this will be, I got two more things to talk about, and we'll be finished. Oops, let's do it like this. We got line here, and get rid of that, and a line right there. There's a nice geometry word, kind of fancy math word, about two lines that cross each other like that.
Vertex.
Intersect. Who said intersect? Okay, these two lines intersect. All right, so these two lines, you can put arrows on them, show that they're lines. They intersect each other. Now here's a question I need to ask you that's going to be on a quiz. Like if I put let's put some points on here, and I'll just make it easy. A, B, C, D, and J. All right, might as well mix it up a little bit. All right, here we go. Now watch. If I said two lines, let me get these rulers. Where's that other one? What's that other ruler? Nicole, you stole it. All right, pretend these are two lines. All right. Now remember, lines don't really have any thickness at all. These do, but they just represent lines. So if I had two lines right here, and boom, they did this. They cross each other, or they do what? They intersect each other. What is formed at that intersection?
Point.
Now, yeah, a point, exactly. Now, it doesn't really look like a point here, but that's what's happening. If it hits at one what? Point. So two lines intersect in a
Point.
Okay, write that down somewhere on your notes. Two lines intersect at a
Point.
Write it down. Two lines intersect at a point. So here's the question. Name the point, or sorry, where do lines AC and DJ intersect? At, just don't say B, but point B. Right, you say that they intersect at point B. Two lines intersect at a point. Okay, you all right with that? All right, what do these two pieces of cardboard represent? What do they represent? They're planes. Okay, now watch this. Here's one plane, and if this plane, now if they intersect each other, they touch each other, right? So those two lines, they touch each other at that one point. Now, it's hard to draw this on this, this computer thing, even drawn on the whiteboard. I'm terrible at drawing three-dimensional stuff. So I'm not going to draw it. I'm just going to use this so you can see what's going on. So here's a piece of cardboard. Here's another one. If the two planes intersect each other, what do they form when they intersect each other? Actually, let's do it like this. What do they form when they intersect each other?
A line.
A line. Very good. Does everybody see that? So where they touch each other is a line, right? You can see that from there, right? So two planes, write it down. Two planes intersect in a what?
Line.
In a line. So when two planes come together, they form a line. So two planes intersect in a line. All right, there we go. Now I've got two planes that intersect. Do you see that? So I got this red plane and the purple plane. They intersect each other. Now with the cardboard, I couldn't really like slice it right down the middle like this, but you got the idea. But look where the two planes intersect. Let's say that's point C and that's point D right there. Where does plane, I think they call this plane A, even though they didn't stick it in there. So plane A and plane B intersect where?
D.
Say it. Line CD. At line CD.
Oh.
Because remember, two planes intersect in a what? In a line. All right? So if I ask you, where do these two planes intersect, you've got to write it as a line, right? So you can't just say D or C because that means a point. Look, it touches a lot more places than just one point, doesn't it, when they intersect each other. So they intersect at a line. So here could be a question. I could give you a picture that looks like this, and I've labeled it. We'll call that point C. I guess writing in white's probably not the best, is it? Let's do blue. All right. So here's a point C, and here's a point D. We'll call this plane A and plane B. We'll put it actually in the planes. So plane A and plane B intersect at, what's the answer? Line CD. How do we write a line? We write it like this. Make sense? All right, so that's how we write a line. So that's our answer to that. That's where they intersect each other. Make sense? Okay. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. Let me take a look at your worksheet, and I might even give you some time to do this worksheet. Now, sometimes they'll sometimes they'll give you a picture and they'll ask you questions about it. They'll give you this picture and say, okay, where do they intersect? But sometimes they're going to say, draw two lines, draw line L and draw line M that intersect at point P. Make sense? So let's just do that one. Just as a quick little example. Line L. Now, if I just said line L, do I put points on this actual thing? No, I would just put a little L right there. And then line M, right? It doesn't have to be slanting a certain way. Everybody's might be looking just a little bit different. If I call this line M, I would put just a little lowercase m there. But if they intersect at point P, what would I have to do? Right where they intersect each other, put a point P. Yes.
Can I have Cleo Rogers to the front office, please?
Can you wait like 5 minutes? Wait 5 minutes until I'm done. Okay. Okay. So point P right here. So that's what you would do. So sometimes they're going to actually ask you to draw some things. All right. You don't have to be a great artist. I'm not a great artist. Just draw lines. All right. That's basically all you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think we're good with this. I think you should be able to do this worksheet. I'll give you the worksheet, give you the rest of the time to work on it, and it will be due for homework, and it's due tomorrow. Okay?